Okay, while we have one panelist yet to come, but I guess we'll get going. So, good afternoon and welcome everyone to this panel discussion on an extremely pressing and timely moment as far as the world of e-commerce is concerned. Reversing the cost burden of reverse logistics, or in simpler terms, how to make returns management a success. Now, how we're going to run this particular panel is that I'll talk about certain background and certain facts. I'll also let you know what insights that we'll get into specifically with our panelists here, and that's from where we'll get going with our discussion. So, in terms of some of the background, we all know that the e-commerce growth in India is set at about 22% or so year on year for the next about 5 years. Now, that really means that with this rapid expansion, you also have a significant amount of returns that comes back, but at the same time, returns also poses an opportunity in itself as well. As far as the returns trends are concerned, the statistics reveals that as far as the e-commerce returns are concerned, there are 3x when we talk about a compare with B2B. Now, typically in a B2B scenario, the returns could be in the range of about 8 to 10%, and you can clearly see 3x of that when it comes to e-commerce. And when you look at the festive season, as a matter of fact, we're sitting here in DHL for that matter, I can clearly see that a lot of volumes in terms of retail brands is significantly growing, and there will be a time when the returns will also start to come back. And we see that the returns range in the proximity of about 25 to sometimes even 40% for certain brands, which typically means that on logistics costs, for every 100 units sold, the cost is coming to approximately equivalent of 130 units. Now, while it's crucial to understand that returns is a financial loss to the brands, but at the same time, this is a reality of the consumer behavior in India today. Yeah. And it can't be ignored as well, for the simple reason that there is a 55% chance of a cart abandonment in the event the returns policies are not conducive, and if the consumers feel that they can't return things easily, they actually abandon the cart. Now, in light of this background, the two specific areas or strategies that we'll focus on in our discussions today will be with respect to reducing returns at source. So by that, what I mean is implementing smarter policies and technologies to manage returns behaviors, particularly in sectors where the trial and returns are common. For example, fashion. And secondly, how do you improve the return yield? Basically talking about refurbishment, refinishing, and actually faster reinventorization. So today we have a panel from diverse sectors, and they obviously have their insights. They know about what are the challenges with respect to returns that they face in their business, and they will be sharing their inputs, ideas in terms of how some of those have been overcome by them. And obviously we'll take some questions at the end from all of you as our audience as well. So with this, So what we can do is that as part of the start, you can introduce to all the members here in the room about your business, a quick introduction about your business, talk about the scale, and the scale that you could mention is about the units or whatever unit or measure that you use in terms of your business to sell or quantify your sale. And then also talk about what's the return that you see, the percentage of that, and what's your return policy? I think that's the fundamental that I think we need to understand with respect to each of your sectors.
Hi, I'm Arjun from Nagin, one of the co-founders at Nagin. We make hot sauces and a lot of pantry essentials as well. So signature product would probably be hot sauces, but we're expanding out into the pizza, pasta, salsa, chili oils and stuff like that. The packaging we have is largely sort of like glass bottles and jars. So it's really important to get that packaging right when you're sending it out to folks. given that it's a food product, probably have a very different perspective on what that replacement and sort of return policy looks like for some of the other folks here. But on our side, it's typically pretty straightforward. If the seal's broken, customer gets to return it. Or in the case of glass, if for some unforeseen reason you have some just like a breakage or something like that, again, it's very straightforward. There's no replacement. I mean, there's no return possible. It's just a pure replacement. So I think to answer the question of what is the policy for us, we don't really get into a long discussion with customers. We keep it simple. It is simple for us, like relatively, so we try and keep it as simple as possible. We don't do much return. It's largely just replacement. And typically that happens when there's a breakage or if there's a product defect. All others are typically considered to be just, hey, well, you bought it. Because of the nature of the product, no one can just be like, well, it's not the right shade of green that I thought I was buying. It's very different. And you only know it once you open it and try it. And once you try it, you can't return it. So for us, sort of like, the process becomes a lot easier, the filtration on how to do returns and replacements. But that's not to say it doesn't exist. It's just that it takes a very different nature for our type of product. But yeah, that's sort of the setup.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Raj. I'm from Helio Soul. We are a leather footwear brand. We are present omni-channel. So in stores, SIS, we are selling through our website and through marketplaces like Myntra, Nykaa, etc. For our business, 25-30% is a benchmark for a company operating in returns. Shoes are very personal. We have faced an issue where we've realized that at the price bracket that we work at, people do not prefer to buy shoes online. And even if they do, they need a surety that their money is not going to get wasted or we're not going to con them in any other way. So we need to keep our return policy very open and we need to be very confident in our product to give that policy in the first place. That being said, we do have different policies for return depending on the medium that we are selling at. We have a slightly stricter policy on our own website because we can operate in that manner. We require a customer to send us a picture of the shoe just to make sure that it's not worn. And given that they meet that benchmark, we will offer them an exchange. And if they don't want an exchange, it will be a return. Usually the reasons why people ask for return for the shoes is because the size is not right. In our case, we work very hard on the product and the fit. So mostly people are very happy with the product, but if it doesn't fit them, we have to return it. We've seen slightly different behavior from the customers depending on the marketplace platform that we are operating at. So for example, Myntra has a 30-day no questions asked policy of return. So as soon as we started on Myntra, so like before when we were selling from our own website, we had a return percentage of less than 5%. As soon as we started onboarding on Myntra, we saw that suddenly it is up 30-40%, and it was not something that we had prepared for, and we understood that it's because of the behavior of the policy, and we can't really try and be strict about it. We just have to figure out how to navigate that. On a different platform like Nykaa, they have a 7-day policy, and they have a similar policy like our website where you have to send a picture, they have to approve it, and then people will, and then your return will be accepted. So there the consumers are more careful when they are ordering and when they are returning. So it is a source problem, and so that, I guess, helps the brands avoid a lot of returns at source. Yeah, I guess that's me.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ashwini, founder of Denison. We have been, the brand is almost 36 years old, started by my father. And I joined Denison 10 years back and started my e-commerce journey. And today we are doing somewhere around 1,000 to 1,200 orders a day. And for us, and we started almost, I think our major reason in 2018 we started Denison website, and we got it shut after 9 months just because of the reason of higher returns, RTOs, fake orders. It was a big painful thing because it started hitting our cash flows. And then again in 2023, somewhere we got into wrong machine learning on our website, and again we started getting some fake orders, and a lot of things were happening. From January this year, again we restarted. Uh, then we realized our mistakes and all. It was just not all these things. It was more on the brand side also. We had such a big portfolio that our machine learning was going on out of the box. And then also in terms of targeting consumers, kind of quality of a consumers we were targeting on the Meta and Google was also not right earlier. So had a good learning around that. And then we focused more on the side, okay, let's restart. Like if we fail, restart. That's the only mantra we had it. And we focused on the quality of the targeting. Then we focused on the imagery. We focused on the products. And somehow within 6 months we got profitable. Like we had a break even, I would say, like this. And right now with Myntra and marketplaces, I've been associated for almost 10 years. And we have somewhere around customer return is somewhere around 25 to 27%, and around 9 to 10% is somewhere around courier returns. This is what I can say frankly in apparels. And apparel has a lot of problems, like from if there is a color mismatch also there is a problem, because it maybe over here, like you guys are 100 people over here sitting. सबका screen का जो if you say कि colors ना सबका अलग दिखेगा. For me, blue color can be different in my phone, and blue color can be different into your. Right, then there's a fit issue, then there is a quality issue there can be n number of issues. And there is a reverse logistic cost for that, and it makes you bleed like anything. And that is where I think brands and any person who is selling on D2C or on website, I would say, becomes very painful. And on the other side with marketplaces, there is a leverage on that side, which I feel is like at times you don't have to pay for the courier and courier returns and all, and somehow they distribute the cost. This is how you benefit and becomes better profitability. And on your website, this is a whole game, and also makes you impact in the terms of your whatever you spend it on the marketing or performance or the organic brand building content and everything. So I think as in professional for 10 years, founder for 10 years in e-commerce, the only thing which I have seen is the returns, how they, like Amit said, there is a refurbishing cost, right? So you have to work out each day. I still remember in 2021, somewhere around, we had a customer return of, so in 2020, during around the COVID, I would say, we had a return somewhere around 40%, because I think people started ordering so much, they were sitting at home, ordering like anything. And then we realized that there is a fit challenge and all, we improved about it, and we took a lot of steps. Now Myntra, and we all started doing this tag looping things, that if someone breaks that tag loop, because sometimes it is just not we are at the fault, it is also the consumer is also at the fault. At times he wears it, he uses it, then there's the one problem. Then there are the courier partners, they also misuse it because they wanted to fill their targets and all, they just put the reverse logistics at times. I have seen it because I have experienced myself, yaar main aa raha hu sir, aap kahan ho? Then they don't come, right? So why this is happening? There are other challenges. I think 10 to 12% is, I think it is this logistic companies which fools brand or the consumers. I don't know why they do it. Sometimes I just feel have only one thing is they just wanted to put their targets on at times, or maybe some educational training issues is there. So there are a lot of things I can talk about, but that's my bite. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Aditya, one of the 3 co-founders of a home care, sustainable and eco-friendly brand called Pico. We're doing a sales of roughly about 110 crores annually. For us, the returns, returns are primarily into 2 things. One is that if the customer is getting something that they don't expect, so there is an expectation mismatch, and then the other kind of return which what most of us spoke about is if there is any breakage or spillage or leakage, or if there's any product damage issue. So I think the second part is easier to figure out. As a brand, we don't have any return policy, given a brand in home care where, primarily it's what the customer is expecting and is not getting. Because there's no using and there's no fitment or trial challenge. There is just particularly what they thought the product was that they ordered and what it actually came to be. So we don't have a return policy as such, given that the nature of the products and the ASP or the average selling price of the product itself is very low. And while that policy is true, obviously the true measure of actually return is seeing for us is whether there is enough customer love or not, and whether the customers are liking the product. So essentially, if you've cracked the product bit and the communication and the imagery and all of the aspect of customer communication is done right for the product, largely the return. So our return hovers between 5 to 7%, and that's largely more to do with delivery issues than anything else. Whether they've ordered the product, but it has taken X amount of days to come, but they've ordered from a Q-commerce or an e-commerce site and they've gotten a faster delivery. So I think the nature of each of the businesses and the categories is very different. And you will have to understand fundamentally on what is actually causing the return, because while in some categories like apparels and footwear, I'm sure that the return, because the finicky nature of the customer itself questions you whether do I like it or not. So I know my sister buys from Myntra and she orders 10 things and she knows she wants to return 5 because she will try out those 10 things like ye mujhe better laga, even though I like this, I still will just choose to buy this and then return this. So I think it's also on the nature of the category, but if the customer is getting, especially in the home care category, which is products that we use more on a utility basis, if the customer is getting what they expect, then there's hardly any return to be catered to for us.
I think what we hear from each of you is that returns is there, a percentage or a degree of that, changes from industry to industry, sector to sector. But I think all of you certainly want that when you make a sale as a brand, you necessarily want that in a larger form, that sale should be confirmed, regardless, even if it's coming back. So the next question is about, is there any strategy that any of you or all of you have implemented to ensure that as against a return and refund, you do a return and exchange? So change the return and refund to return and exchange.
I can.
Yep.
So we have done two things. I think marketplaces are the benchmark for us, and we have always been inspired by their customer experience. We always think whenever there's a customer return is happening, and we want that, it's an aspiration for us, like what marketplaces has done, in next 24 hours we can return their money back into their account if the product is returned. And we try to focus more. We have a team of CRM who always indirectly connected with the consumers, and they make sure that first you push on the giving them if there's a size issue or something. We try to understand what is the problem. If it is like they just wanted to return it, then we happily accept it. And if there's like a size issue or some maybe a color variation they had it, something like this. So we try to put them push them towards an exchange. And another thing which we did is like, what happens is at times what we have realized around 5 to 6% of a customer return happens at a point where they use it and they return it. And that is a big challenge which we thought, let's improve that 5%. We started using these stack loops basically in the product, and we had a scanner barcode in it, and we have implemented a tech in our company. So whenever a consumer is coming back as a return, they want to return it, and we see that the tag loop is not is tiered, so we don't accept it. And that is where that consumer understands whether he wants to keep it. But that 5% we have saved in that sense. But this is not about a customer experience ki bikar ho raha hai. I think that they are already defrauding on that side. So that is something which we try to save it. And on the side, we have a CRM team which directly connects with them and push them for the exchanges. That's what we can do it. And rest, thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, I think we also have a similar process where if there's a return request, we'll first call them and we'll try to understand what the issue is, if we can solve it by just sending them a different size or a different style. We really push for that, but again, you cannot annoy the customer. So something else that really worked for us that we did not expect it to have such a big impact was offering a discount for prepaid orders. So you have on your website COD orders and prepaid orders. So if you tell them, okay, 5% discount for a prepaid order, you are actually sort of using a selection bias in with the term in behavioral psychology, where you are actually selecting the customers that are more attuned to keeping your product. In my case, my shoes are at an average selling price of 6 to 7,000. So and still we are offering COD because you have to. You can't really operate without it. At least in our market. So we need to really single out people who will actually keep the shoes if they find it good enough. So we do this prepaid order thing, which helps us send shoes and reward the customers that are right for us. And that's how we really have found a good way to avoid returns. So if your average order value is on the higher side, I would recommend anyone to do this. I think it's very helpful.
I'll just add something to that. Maybe the perspective's a little bit different for different categories and different price points, but the way we look at it is very much like you work so hard to get the customer in, and you're so confident in your product, right? Like, I mean, all of us will be super confident and bullish about, you know, how good our products are. And you just have this feeling that like once the guy tries it or once this lady loves it, you know, like you have a customer for life. So I think the prospect of losing a customer with the return and refund is something we don't ever want to contemplate. So we just offer an easy replacement, and it's like a no questions asked thing. I know it's like a little easier for me to say this, our returns are like under 2%, you know, always lifelong. At the moment, it's currently 0.6, 0.7. Sorry, don't hate me. But if it makes you feel any better, our products expire. So we got different problems. But no, I mean, I think the idea is
you are
work
into
so
different altogether, like you're into different.
Yeah, the grass
industry.
is always greener. Yeah.
I'm sure that you must be trying, even if you're going to in store, you must be trying to for garments and then you buy.
Absolutely.
Plus, I think the problem is, okay, I know what a hot sauce will taste like. I mean.
Do you?
I mean, no.
You know what Tabasco tastes like, and it tastes terrible.
I know. But like, okay, I guess wrong argument to start with. But I think what helps you is that once someone likes the product, it's very easy for them to order it again.
Yeah.
It's not the same for me and him, I guess, because we need to sell them a particular style all the time, and we can't really sell the same thing again and again to the same person. We have to always invent new things, and sometimes those inventions can go wrong.
I think it's interesting because like our product is something that you can order once a month or maybe even more frequently. Whereas like, I don't know how often you buy shoes, right? Like, I mean, it's sort of like maybe once a year or whatever for different purposes. So I think the importance of keeping any individual customer for that once in a year sort of transaction is really important. But it's also like a different mentality of each customer, right? Like if I'm looking to buy shoes, I've already decided I need a new pair of shoes. It's really a question of which one do I buy, not if. But like food products can often just be like oh yeah, maybe I'm in the mood, or like maybe the discount is right, or maybe just, I don't know, just like the mojo's like, you know, good for me today. But like it is very discretionary. So the idea is you want to kind of like capture the customer, and if that means you have to take a minor hit on you know, your P&L or however you want to break that down, for us at least in the way our business is structured, it's totally worth doing that, because what you really want is like really strong word of mouth, and it's the type of thing that's very taste based, so it's very like individually specific, but it makes a huge difference when people speak positively. I mean, I'll just say one thing, I know this is not the topic of conversation, but I generally grown up hating customer service in this country as a whole. If most people out here have grown up in the 90s and early 2000s, you have no doubt been tortured by a travel company or a telephone company at some point or the other. And you know, like, and all you're feeling internally is just like, just listen to me and just like, please just hear me out, and please do something for me, and just try and understand the pain I'm in right now. And my pain is not even about the problem right now, it's you, right? Like, so I think the way we want to deal with this is just sort of like, and again, I get that it's a little different product and it's easier for me to say this, But the idea is just like, hey, no problem, it's not what you asked for. You know, like if the glass shattered, you don't need to explain it to me. You ordered a bottle of sauce, not smithereens. So like, I get it, like here's your replacement, it'll be with you in 4 days. But I think the idea is just like, you want to make it really frictionless, and you want your customers to be happy. But yeah, sorry for the tangent.
Sure, sure. So Aditya, anything you want to add to this? Okay. So I think I felt, personally that when it came to footwear, yeah, and then, in India we all understand the Bata shoe size. Yeah? But tell me from your perspective, how many cases of returns do you get only because of fitment issues or size issues?
So if I break it down, I mean, it's easy for people to say that it doesn't fit me because there's no way for me to verify it. But we do get, most of our returns are listed fit issues. Then there is, the second reason is shade is different from the picture. So that we really worked on to make sure that, we are only sharing very, very, very accurate colors of the shoes everywhere. And the third issue is, okay, I didn't like the style, which is fine. But on Myntra, we have had this issue where most of our returns are not accepted at source. So somebody will go, like the guy will go to your house to give you the shoes. You will say, okay, wait here, let me open the box and check it, and you'll quickly decide, do you want it, not want it, and then send it back with the same guy. That's happening a lot with us. I don't know if it's the same in every other industry. Yeah.
I think you're right. So returns, you're right, are of two types. You go and deliver, you don't, the product is not received and it just comes back to the origin. And obviously then there is a return to the seller.
I think that's
Right.
try and buy.
Exactly. So, given the fact that returns is a reality in the e-com business, right? I mean, the intent is also that how fast can you reinvent? I can understand in your case and yours that, but I'll be keen to understand, I'm sure the audience here would also be that, is there a possibility in your products to reinvent? I'm sure that there is obviously a massive opportunity in your cases, but maybe with you.
No, so I think there's a lot of opportunity because just the amount of data that you have and the amount of data that some of your partners have, it's actually easier to even gauge whether the individual customer is, or this order has a high propensity for either a fraudulent order or a propensity to return. And I think there are tools out there that actually now help you. Some of the partners outside, while there are other partners as well. Fintech players who actually give you that amount of data, which actually share and suggest whether this particular order by this particular customer has had a history of return. So I think, there are smarter ways to now navigate this. Few of the basic things they mentioned that give a discount on the prepaid order and some of these things. But I think fundamentally there are customers who share a mindset कि अगर समझ नहीं आया कुछ भी हुआ return कर लो. They will fight tooth and nail and they'll just get it. And I agree because even in our category, like it has to be a very frictionless experience because you spend so much to acquire the customer. For that 200 rupees for us, it's a pure waste if we don't satisfy the customer at that point, and it's difficult to segregate from the honest ones and the not so honest ones. So for us, we use a lot of tools that actually suggest that which orders we should ship. So there are a lot of orders that we cancel, most of them being cash on delivery. When we run sales, there are bulk of orders that come in during the sale period. So it's easier for us to segregate the kind of orders that we want to ship. So majority, I would say almost 99.95% of the orders are shipped, but the 0.5 really help us reduce the percentage because we know that that's going to come back. And that has the highest propensity. Cash on delivery again is a very nasty business in India where like there's a try and buy and there's so many different things that the customers do. But I think fundamentally if our product is popular, it has social proof, a lot of the customers actually don't end up returning the categories that we are present in today. So they say, okay, let me try it, let me use it, and let me see if I don't like the product. Most of our issues actually delve around either if the customer himself or herself is not just willing to pay for the product and they've placed the order, but they've either bought it from somewhere else or they don't really want to accept the order, or it has to do with delivery issues where most of our complaints, I would say almost 70 to 80% of our complaints actually come that my order has not been delivered, the guy has not called me and it's marked RTO in our system. So it's very surprising the kind of ecosystem, and you have to sort of navigate it and think of ways to sort of build it. So sending out before, one day before the delivery, if they can prepay for the order, and ensuring that at least the propensity of the customer returning then becomes lesser. So there are many ways to sort of navigate it. I think there are many tools and many data points that allow us to take a decision.
Sure, good.
That's actually a really good point. I mean, this is something that's really picked up a lot for us as well. Like, we're finding that the vast majority of complaints from customers is not so much that there was like, they've got the product. The problem is that they never received it in the first place. So we're finding that a lot of these delivery folks, and this is across marketplaces and sort of like, D2C as well, have started, saying lazy is really harsh, but like they'll leave it at the gate of the building, or they'll leave it at the bottom, like next to the watchman who's not there, and then they'll just walk out and act like everything's been delivered. So you're sitting there getting a text message in the office thinking, oh, the product's reached me, and then you come home, it's like, yeah, there is no product, and then you start figuring it out, and you're like this big investigator in your building trying to figure out where this little package is gone. And that's really problematic. And I'm not sure there's like an official fix for this, other than just like, your delivery partners having more reliable folks. And like, I don't know how much you can fix the human intervention part, but there is exactly what Aditya said. Like, I think there's definitely that element of, if you make that call prior to delivery, you can at least make sure that they're available if they go to the wrong apartment on the same floor or something funny like that. There's a lot of these little things that you can preempt. And that really helps. Like, I know we're talking about percentages, but as the volume grows, the percentage really counts, and it starts picking up the pace in terms of total orders. So that stuff is just one of those it's in your hands to be able to affect, even if it's not in your hands to 100% fix.
So interesting. So what you're saying is that a delivery experience can also bring down the amount of returns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if as a customer, I feel that the person was courteous, nice to me, and delivers the product well, the packaging looks great, I'll probably be embarrassed to return it.
Actually, it's saying that delivery also causes a lot of returns and has the potential to reduce them. I think that's
Also, I had you talked about that there are a lot of tools coming up which helps you in reducing your RTOs and all. But I feel like when you implement those on the payment gateway and then get their history done and all, and if you remove that, then if you're a scaling brand, it becomes very hard. Number of orders get dropped and all. Though I think sometimes it doesn't become feasible. And the second thing, I think there are a lot of tools which has come. I think in D2C there is, I would say in terms of website, there is a thing from marketplaces different than in the sense ki we have higher RTOs and the lesser customer returns on our website, but on a marketplaces it is like you have higher customer returns and less RTOs. So there's a difference in that sense. And what happens over here, even like on our website when we were selling and all. So the only thing as a brand which we didn't focus earlier when we were starting was the post-purchase communication with the consumer. That once we had an order confirmation, he did it, we were happy and we shipped it. But what happened, whether he's getting an update that it has been shipped and then it is in transit, it's going go for out for delivery. If you want to change an address or something, so there is no communication as such with the brands earlier. It used to happen. I think recently a lot of brands have picked up about this thing. But yeah, still it needs to go on the deeper side, and like as said by members also, there are the delivery experiences, which is the major thing which I also talked about. At the last moment they come to the point and they go back and thinks I am coming or ye wo. And the moment, even if you 2 minutes later and they went away, then they just in the hurry to market RTO as soon as possible, and which I don't understand till now.
So I have a different sort of way of handling this in Helios also. We actually went in from a place of empathy to the customer ke kyun aa rahe hain wapas. If there's a fit issue, like I said, fit issue was a big problem. So we actually called up the customers and asked them, okay, fit mein kya problem tha? And we actually ended up identifying a new product segment that wasn't being serviced, and now we're working on it. So I shouldn't be sharing it, but I'll just say it. So we have a lot of problem in India where you have white fit that's not available for women. So you have a lot of them who love to wear nice looking shoes, especially flats or something, they're everyday wear, but a regular flat shoe in Zara or H&M or Kai or any of your um other shoe retailers are not really made for their body type. So we actually went into the research and we're putting out a new category just by analyzing what is making people return. I think that can also work for a lot of people who are in fashion, saying, okay, is there a segment that is not being serviced by other people that you can figure out through just checking uh, what the exact fit issue is?
Okay, I think let's move to the second segment of our discussion, and that's about when you have to reinvent rise, you also have to think about a quality audit of the product that's come back. You also have to think about how do you refurbish it, refinish it, right? In your cases, obviously, it could be a bit different, but interesting to know. And then try and get that back into the stock, and obviously then start to put it on sale. So what I'm keen to understand is that what are the strategies around increasing the yield, meaning get yield higher, faster from the returns by virtue of different processes, refurbishment, refinishing, any others that you have implemented?
We have a team, so we have a whole full-fledged team of 3 to 4 people who on a daily basis. They process all the returns and all. Whatever is coming, they need to, they will just open the packets and check it whether the first checkup is, the first line of checkup is that whether it is from our brand or not. At times what happens on the delivery guys also exchange the products and we get a different products and all. This has generally, majority of the cases have happened. Then when it is get clear that it is our product, brand product, and then we get into the second level of check, where the QC team checks whether it has a spot or it has not been weared or something like this. All these checks has been go, and once everything is finalized, then it gets into 2 parts: whether it is going to be for refurbishing or it is going to be go into the like as in a damaged stock or something, which we are going to be selling it out or maybe giving it to an NGO somewhere around. That these 2 things which we have it right now. This is as a process we're doing, and within like 72 hours, we try to from delivering a return to in our warehouse. Within 72 to maximum 96 hours at times, if there is a holiday or something or like Sunday, so we get it live.
So I think it's a bit difficult in our case because once a shoe gets spoiled, it's very difficult to repair it in any manner. If it's been scuffed a little bit, we can clean it, and we have a team for that. Actually, we have our own studio where a lot of research happens on the footwear, and we use the same space and the same infrastructure to actually process the returns. And I guess for us, it's also very important to have a sturdier packaging so that they don't get crushed in process and all of that. So earlier we used to have boxes that were not that sturdy, so the product used to get spoiled in transit. You can avoid that if your product is prone to being squished in the process by having sturdier packaging. It will cost you more, but I think in the long run it is worth it.
So you're saying in your case, it's a more difficult process. So if it was a non-leather shoe, then it probably would be easier.
Yes.
Okay. Anything that you gentlemen have done?
I don't have that much to add over here, but except like if the product's in perfectly good condition and it comes back to us for whatever reason, we just put it into our pantry and we start eating it at lunchtime.
Yeah, I think likewise. I think we've seen more of damages, which is around packaging. So I think that's easier to solve for. My recommendation here for everyone would be that just make sure that your return timeline is more crisp and the SOP and the TAT for returns is better, like once it's inverted, because you want to quickly get the quality check done and see if it needs to be refurbished either through packaging, which is most likely the case for us, and get the product live, because any inventory planning or any supply chain, and I get this a lot because more than offline, which is our modern trade and our general trade, we see a lot more returns in e-commerce just by the nature of the customer experience that e-commerce offers, that D2C tends to offer. And make sure that the inventory planning is done keeping the returns and a part of the returns in mind, because we've gone through phases where we've overstocked or over ordered on things that actually are in good condition or can be in good condition in turnaround time in amount of no time. And make sure that the returns are added to the, not to the P&L, but the product cost. Because there are certain products that actually have a slightly higher percentage of return, or the refurbishment costs more. So the product cost actually should reflect a certain part of the return and shouldn't affect the P&L on a wholesome basis. This is more for brand owners, if there is any in the audience, that returns in our belief should lie in the product cost itself.
Very good. Well, I had a point on the fakes as well, but I think given the last 5 odd minutes, we can open it to the audience.
I
And
have one question actually. Is everyone here manufacturing their own stuff, or do you have contract manufacturers for anything at all?
50-50.
So how do you do refurbishment and repackaging for contract manufactured items if you don't have it internally?
I mean, you can send it back to them if there's a big issue, but then we would do it ourselves.
Okay, sorry.
We have a same setup, right? There are the manufacturing, just about the expansion and all. Where whatever as a product is coming, we can refurbish it into our own factories also.
But yeah, now you have return centers by a couple of organizations, including DHL. We actually started with footwear, fashion, right? And I think it's good to have multi-client return centers. It obviously then gives you the scale, flexibility, and at the same time the expertise. And you can also bring in a lot of returns processes like claims processing, etc. into it. So there are things obviously as logistics partners that we also keep thinking to reduce the burden of the return cost at the same time. Yeah. Anyway, good. So I think we can take maybe 1 or 2 questions from the audience if there are any.
Hello. Hi, I am Visha. So a lot of marketplaces like Myntra, Nykaa or some Ajio, and some brands have started these coupons called no returns, and you get like 200 or 300 off, but in exchange you cannot return the product. So what is your take on that? Should brands do it? Have you ever tried it?
Yeah, it's good. We have been doing that for last almost 1 year. We have been opting for such coupons on Myntra, where for no return is like 5% and 10% depending on the products you wanted to tag into it. And I think that has worked for us.
So does that like reduce the return rate?
Yeah. That has worked. Almost I think 2 to 3% of our return percentages have gone down. I think I can't say 100%, 2 to 3%, but yeah, that's what my estimation is about that.
Okay, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Malhar. My question is particular to Aditya. You guys, I just show your website. So you guys are selling low crude products, like average 500 rupees. So how you guys
Lower
achieve
than
the profitability? Yeah. So how you achieve the profitability and achieve the 110 crore business?
So I think D2C, because we sell laundry detergents and tissue papers and dishwash liquids, garbage bags. So the propensity of the customer in categories they don't go to a D2C website to buy. So even if I'm using a brand like Harpic in every bathroom, I wouldn't necessarily go to a Reckitt Benckiser's website to buy a Harpic. My usual purchase behavior is that I'll go to either my local modern trade store or my kirana shop and I'll give him a list कि ये मेरा grocery list है, ये मुझे 10-15 चीजें month में चाहिए. So our category is not very D2C first, which is where it gets even more difficult to build a D2C first, and it's not the way consumers are purchasing. Hence, there has to be an overall brand story which necessarily attracts them. So while the product average selling price is 100, 200, 150, 250, it ranges from 50 rupees to 250 rupees. We either try to bundle or we ensure that the customer is buying multiple SKUs, and hence the average order value is on the higher side. D2C itself is a difficult channel to keep because the consumer, as we spoke, is not very usual for them to go to a D2C website to buy. So there are, the ways we would want to do it is sell the brand story, ensure through that they're buying multiple SKUs. If you can get your order value up to a certain percentage and still ensure that the customer expectation is matching, then if the customer is coming back and then coming back again, and that repeat behavior is happening, then for you it becomes easier to, and because the category is bought monthly. So for us, the measure is not buying once, but is the customer buying the second time or the third time, which will actually lead to manageable unit economics for our D2C business. But our category is primarily for offline, and we've also built for offline largely. We started with offline, then we went to e-commerce and then D2C. So our journey has actually been the other way, and we are not a D2C first brand.
Thank you.
Any last question?
Yeah, hi. My question is for Aditya. You mentioned that, like, you cancel those 0.5 to 1%, cash on delivery orders from your end. So I want to understand, if you can share, on what data points do you decide what orders to cancel out of those 100%, and how do you handle those customers?
So I'll answer the second point first. To handle those customers, we usually send out either a WhatsApp message or a email, because see, we want to cancel most of them. Just understand, from our mindset, हमको ये orders cancel करने हैं. Now if someone still confirms कि yes, I want the order, then we ship it out to them. Otherwise, we just send out a cancellation email saying that we want to reconfirm your order, and whether please click yes if you want your order to come to you or not. And it is as simple as that. We hope that the customer is not clicking a yes, and if they are clicking a yes, then we mean that we ship the order. As simple as that. The data points are actually not, and to be fair, I think it's more to do with the partners that we work with. So there's Razorpay has a tool, ShipRocket has a tool, Delivery has a tool. So a lot of these data, you have to first understand which tool works for you best. We've tried all the ones that are there, or the major ones that are there in the industry, seen the resultant of it when the scale was less. Now when the scale is higher, we've partnered with one that we want to sort of go ahead with, because then if you get it wrong, then the customer experience is really bad. So once we know that this customer is most likely to cancel, even if there might be a small percentage of within that customer that might actually end up confirming, then that is fine. But I think for us, that order still remain cancelled. So that order doesn't come even in our sales channel, it doesn't come in our processing, it doesn't come anywhere. For us, it goes to the CRM teams, or the customer teams, and they manage those customers. But for us, it's very clear that if you want to build a profitable, high scalable business, then the element of these customers will always remain, and how to be able to manage them is, I think, goes from category to category again, and from the kind of customers that you're catering to also.
Okay, great. So I think we're a little short of our time, but thank you so much to all of you. I think great insights from the different sectors that you represent. I think the fact that's coming out is that returns, the reality is not going to go away, right? We need to certainly manage it well. There are certain strategies which are available, tested, leverage on those, and you obviously then need to find a little bit from your side in terms of the industries you are from. And thanks a lot to all of you for being a great audience. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.